Awesome. Hey, everybody. This is Dennis Metter. This is the Strategic Partner Podcast. I met Dennis on LinkedIn and I was watching his content on how he helps attorneys build their own podcast to grow their company. And I'm in the opinion that a podcast is one of the best things that you can actually do for your business and your brand for numerous different ways. And there's no better guest right now, I believe, especially when we're talking about attorneys, for talking about this than Dennis. So, Dennis, thank you and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Justice. And feel free to call me DM. That's what my friends call me. If you want to call me Dennis, we don't have to be friends. That's fine. That's all on you, my friend.
Yeah.
But no, just DM is fine. If you call me Dennis every once in a while, don't feel bad. You don't have to apologize. It just is what it is.
Well, I'll refer to you as DM because that's how I met you as well. so,
Yeah.
so how are you doing, Dennis? Like, tell us your story. Like, when you first got like this realization that, hey, attorneys can do podcasts, right? I don't know if a lot of them do that, right? But like, what zung you in the head where like, hey, I need to help these my colleagues or attorneys in this space actually do this, and like, what are the benefits of actually integrating a podcast into a company like that?
So first of all, I'm not an attorney. I have a legal marketing background. I've worked with attorneys for over 20 years in marketing. So I always jokingly tell people I'm not an attorney, but I play one on Zoom when I'm talking to other attorneys. And so, no, not a lot of attorneys have podcasts. And I think it's because of the impression that podcasts are supposed to be these rambling, 45-minute, 2 hour kind of search and discover conversations, which those types of podcasts certainly have their place. But having worked with attorneys, and before this, had a partnership where I was doing SEO for attorneys, and we would do different kinds of things. We'd do a speak a book, and we do audible version of the book, and we do and then we did a podcast series where we would take the audible book and we would break it down by chapter basically and release it as a podcast weekly for 3 months or so with the books that we were giving them with our SEO. And that podcast was such a big mover. I was like, this podcasting thing, the attorneys like it because they just talk, right? Like we're just harnessing their innate ability to their own benefit, right? Because this is what attorneys are known for, the ability to talk and explain and converse. And so then I started like talking to people, once we started doing that. And then over the next year or two, I'd hear them. Well, do you guys do anything with podcasts? Oh, I heard you guys did something with podcasts. So I went to my partner and we were like, we wanted to expand our offering at the time. And we ended up instead doing a answering service for the legal field. So I just kind of tucked that idea in my back pocket. Then December 1st, 2 years ago now, so almost, basically 2 years ago to the day, plus two, um, I had come up on my 5-year contract. So it was kind of one of those things where I came in, he had a small, pretty well-established company, but he didn't have a large customer base. He had like 78, 75 clients, somewhere in there. If I remember correctly, it was 78. And he'd been in business for 9 years. So I came in, spent 5 years with him. When I left, he was doing under $1 million when I came there. He was doing about $5 million when I left, and we had about 400 and something clients. So over the next 5 years, I 4x, almost maybe a little bit more, 3-4x the business, and also raised their base rate from 1,200 to about 2,000 for the services that we were doing. So having heard that, so he sent me a thing December 1st. I'm going to exercise your buyout. I was 5 months away from my wedding, and I went to my wife and I'm like, I got to figure out something else to do. So I went and I have a notebook that I keep in my desk here, and in this notebook I keep ideas. Some of them are restaurant ideas. Some of them are service business ideas, things that I'll never even do. I have no interest in doing anything outside of B2B. The margins just aren't as good. But it's the way my brain works, and also actionable businesses where I'm like, we could take a podcast and then we could use it as the base. And that's kind of what this came out of, is using the podcast as a base for a holistic approach to marketing. So I don't give people podcasts. I give them an ecosystem that centers around them doing a podcast. And so that's what started the whole process.
I love that, and that's incredible results that you just went over as well. Um, I'm curious, like why don't more attorneys or professionals, even consulting firms in this space, probably do more podcasts? What do you think is that uh, perceived
Well,
perception of them? Do you think?
time, time, just purely time. Podcasting is a labor of love without a guarantee of results. And
Mm,
so you have to do it as a passion project if you do it. But what I knew is if I could provide a turnkey mechanism where all I'm doing is capturing that most important part of it, which is the attorneys talking and explaining, I knew that if I could harness that to their ability, I could hire a team and build all the rest of the stuff, the shorts, the reels, the content, the static posts. We do just to put it in context, if a client sits down with us for 30 minutes, we're going to get about a 17 to 21 minute podcast out of that. Out of that 17 to 21-minute podcast, we're going to create 30 pieces of content. So, and we're going to place it on 25 different outlets: Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Those are the main ones that people know. And then, other ones, Audible with Amazon and those other networks and those other outlets. So, um, if I'm an attorney or I'm a professional, I don't have an extra 5-10 hours a week to sit down and pump out a podcast. Like,
right.
Justice, how much of the podcast do you do on your own?
Um,
Do you do
Well,
the
I
editing?
do a majority of everything
Okay.
because I've
So
done
just
only a few. I haven't done that many episodes, but everything that you're saying, I am seeing huge values from it. Um,
exactly. So we have really two people that we talk to. One is people who started a podcast 2 years ago, did it for 4 months and quit because they were like,
it's
man,
hard.
this is expensive. It's hard. There's a lot to do. Or two, people that are like, I want a podcast, but I just don't even know where to begin, how to get one. So I knew if we could create a way, and let me say this, you mentioned more than just legal. Um, Q1, we're going to be in beta. Hopefully by Q2 launch fully. We're doing what we're calling the expert and the authority podcast networks. The
Mm,
expert is more of a locally focused. So I'm the real estate expert for Atlanta. I'm the mortgage expert for Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know why I'm just staying in the South.
yeah.
I'm the insurance agent for Ypsilanti, Michigan, if that's how you say Ypsilanti. I don't know how to say it, but anyway, the point is that you know more people should have a podcast because it allows you to do a few things. One is harness your time. You're not doing throwaway marketing. You're not spending time and money on throwaway marketing. And number two, you can take that video and audio and just do all kinds of stuff with it. Like I said, 30 minutes is equivalent to about a month's worth of marketing for our clients. Now, I would say about half of our clients have one show a month. But a lot of people, once they've gotten 4 or 5 episodes out, they upgrade to do 2 shows a month or even 4 shows a month. We probably have 50% one show a month, 40% 2 shows a month, and 10% 4 shows a month or a weekly show. And so we're just trying to create a frictionless way for professionals to share who they are, why they're different, how they can help, and really focus their marketing off of themselves, because that's what podcasting forces you to do, right? It forces you to stop talking about you and talk about who's ever listening. And so, or talk to who's ever listening. And so we go from static advertising, which is, I am a super great attorney, you should hire me today, to what's going on? How can I help you? And people respond a lot better to the second than the first. And so that's what we're trying to do, create a mechanism that is frictionless for a professional to come in, give a little bit of time, but using that intellectual capital that they've built over the years or even decades in their profession to their advantage, even while they're not there to do it. And I'll finish this question with this statement. A lot of attorneys will tell me, and they have for years, if I could just get them in my office, if I could just get them sitting across from me, I'm going to convert them at about 80%. But here's the problem: 82% of people make their decisions based solely off of what they're finding on the internet. So you're fishing in a much smaller pond if you're waiting for them to come into your office instead of finding content from you online and making a decision there. And so the competitive advantage that someone has of actually coming in and putting their help in a public format instead of hoarding it to themselves gives them a great advantage against their competitors in what has now become a commoditized industry, the legal field, and many of these other basically knowledge worker type industries, where the differentiating factor is what's going on between our ears.
Yeah, I mean that was great insight right there, Dennis. And DM, I'm sorry. And one thing that you mentioned too, and it keeps ringing in my head when I'm hearing you speak, is just the ability. For me, the podcast is like the easiest thing to create long form content. You don't even necessarily need a solid topic. You could just have a conversation with a really good guest. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the ability, like I see like one podcast could be almost a month's worth of work. Actually, you mentioned a few platforms I probably could extend more repurposing for. So that's helpful. But the other thing is just like in the age of AI, in the age of all of this noise, just like you said, your competitors, all of these different attorneys or consulting firms that, they're even just regularly posting on LinkedIn, or they don't post at all. You're going to be the difference if you are on the podcast or doing long form content in general, to be able to start building that trust and that familiarity with your potential client. So it's like if they could see what is it, like 7 hours or even more of your long form content, they're going to trust you a lot more, or even feel like they know you more than that other attorney. Am I correct with that?
That is true, but the majority of our podcasts are what I'm coining as authority pods. So they are
Hmm.
QA based off of a very specific archetype of our client's client. So when we bring a client on, we find out about, okay, who is this show for? Who is your ideal client?
Hmm.
I'm a criminal defense attorney. I want felony level above, major criminal issues. Okay, so we're going to
Hmm.
speak about what to do if a family member is has been arrested for murder. 5 things you need to do as the person who's helping your loved one, because they've been arrested or whatever it is. And so it doesn't take 7 hours when in 21 minutes you have
Hmm.
answered 5 to 7 very specific questions that have to do with my very specific problem. And so that's what we do, is we drill down on the client's archetype so that as they are talking, they're literally just talking to their clients. It's not about entertaining people as much as it is assuaging fears, giving clarity, and providing answers in that moment when people need it the most.
That is a super interesting thing you said, because as I'm learning more about AI search, it's
Mm-hmm.
specifically looking for what you just spoke about, which is, are
Absolutely.
you answering your customers' questions, and are you getting straight to the point in general? But it's reading these videos that you're posting online and these algorithms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's feeding it right to your ideal client. But
Yep.
you
And then we
also,
also
yeah.
take transcripts and we put it on their website so that we have
Mm.
the old school stuff approach too. So you've got short video, you've got long video, you've got transcripts, you've got static posts, you've got audiograms. And so we're just feeding the algorithm. I mean, think about it. 2 shows a month. That's 1 hour in our studio with us, 2 shows a
Yeah.
month. Now you have 2 posts every day on 10 outlets each time, plus a show every 2 weeks, plus 4 to 6 pages of content every month to your website, plus you're putting all of that on all these different outlets. So we're just stacking content. And I tell people, listen, I am not the originator of this concept. I remember Gary Vee, if you're familiar with him,
Yeah.
saying years ago, you take a video and you take that video and you post it, and then you take a piece of that video and you do a minute here, and then you post this on Facebook, and then you go over here and you put it on your website. I can't do his voice, but that's my version of his voice. It's awful, I know. But yeah, I mean, I don't claim originality, but I will say that I saw it in a way that maybe the vast majority didn't, and we were
Mhm.
able to come in and grow real quick because of it. I mean, we are at 19 months since official launch, 2 years since I knew I needed to launch. We're at almost 200 clients and 60 people on the
Wow.
team.
That's great. That is awesome. And honestly, anybody I find, I'm going to send them directly your way. Um,
Appreciate
just
it.
just because of all the help you've already given me. One thing that I'm also was hearing you say it is that I didn't even realize this. There's multiple different types of podcast styles, is what you're saying. So
Yeah, I mean,
there's authority, you said, and then is there other ones that you use or are familiar
well, I
with?
mean, you could just, this is just kind of what I call them. I mean, there's no like
Yeah.
official glossary to go to, but yeah, there's several ways to podcast. So, like with our
Mm.
authority podcasts, we actually provide the host. We come up with the questions based off of our client's archetype, and our hosts are professional podcast hosts or professional, on
Mm.
camera personalities. One guy, guy that's getting ready to kind of come on more full time in the beginning of the year. He does correspondence for CNN and the Golf Channel.
Wow.
So we're able to. So we have these people that come in. They're professional hosts, and they're used to interviewing people on a professional level. And then the attorney comes in. They've got the questions a week ahead of time, and then the host just jumps right in. Hey, let's talk about. We're talking about this today. Question number one. Blah 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 blah. So that's an authority pod. That's what we're again just a term I'm kind of using. Maybe I read it somewhere. Maybe I saw it somewhere. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. So there's that way. Then, and the other end of the spectrum, you have, so there's that, what I'm calling an authority pod. Then you have like kind of what I call like kind of feel out shows. And it's really Joe Rogan. He's the one who kind of, it's like, I got an interesting person. Let's just feel out and see where a conversation takes us. Maybe we'll take an hour. Maybe we'll take 3 hours. Who knows?
Mm.
But let's just feel it out as it goes. So that's the other end of the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, it's not exactly like rehearsed, but it's definitely prepped. On the other end of the spectrum, it's more just like feeling out personalities. And then you have
Mm.
things that kind of fall in between there. You have panel podcasts, you have solo podcasts, you have podcasts that are, what's the word I'm looking for, where you're kind of telling a story based podcast. So, yeah,
Mm.
there's lots of different podcast styles out there. You just have to kind of determine what is best for what you're trying to accomplish. If you're purely trying to obtain an audience, then you need to lean into entertaining. You need to lean into storytelling. You need to lean into, these things that are going to captivate people and have them be interested. Whereas if you are doing a podcast for the purpose of cultivating clients, you're not leaning into storytelling as much as you're leaning into factual help, granular. In the state of Oklahoma, if you do this, this is what the law says. But 32% of the time, if you can prove this, you're going to be in a better position with sentencing. You might even get off if this, or this happens. So again, there's lots of different ways. It's just like you think about TV shows, right? There's reality TV, there's sitcoms, there's dramas, there's horror TV. They're all coming through the same venue and outlet, and at the end of the day, they're formatted the same, but the actual delivery mechanism and style behind them is going to be different according to the people, the producer, the desired outcome.
If you're just starting out with a podcast and maybe they don't like, if they're just to film a couple of them, and to be honest with you, it's a lot of work. Like just as a warning, or at least on my end, I'm realizing I wanted to do 4+ podcasts a week, and I started realizing, one, I don't probably need that because there's so many repurposing you can do that I
Yep.
probably, just like you said, 2 a month would be fine.
I
And
would suggest
yeah,
one a week,
yeah,
just if you're looking
mm,
for the best cadence. The
yeah,
most success for algorithms, for content where you could just have an
an
abundance of
abundance.
content,
Yeah.
and for workflow is a weekly podcast.
Mm,
That's what I'm doing with my two shows I've got coming up in Q1 is a weekly show. Now you can take a hiatus, make a season out of it. We're going to do 20 episodes and then we're going to take 10 weeks off and then we're going to do 20 more episodes and we're going to have 2 seasons a year. So
mm,
you can always kind of do things like that in the middle. You could shoot your whole year. I mean, I like to stack stuff. So if I get in the studio, I want to do 2 hours, 4 hours. I want to shoot 4, 8, 12, all at once. So I just get in that zone and
yeah.
talk and have good conversations.
Mm. So would you
But you
recommend?
can't do
Yeah.
that if you're talking about, sorry,
No,
I didn't
no,
mean to
no. Go
interrupt you,
ahead.
my
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You can't do that if you're talking about like, what's going on in the world today. You can't do
Mm,
that if your show's about politics. You can't stack content. You can only stack evergreen content that's principle based or story based.
mm. Interesting. Okay. And then, so would you? for a majority of the content that people create, would you say focus around that evergreen so you can just keep yielding results from that over and over again?
If you're a business, yes, because it's an investment.
Yeah.
Whether it's an investment in money or time or both, it's still an investment that you're making as a business owner. Therefore, you want to see eventually a return on investment in some way. And if you do something that is more political or current events in nature, yes, you'll get an initial, viewership that's much higher, but long term, I don't know that you'll see a better return on investment. Let me give
Mm.
you an example. I work with a lot of attorneys right now. That's primarily what we're doing. As I said, we're getting ready to move into just broadly the professional space, and that's really come because about 5 to 7 times a week, somebody comes to us and says, "How can I work with you? But I'm not an attorney." And then we explain to them our whole process. We have a few that have come on despite not being in the legal industry, but starting these shows, any business owner is going to want to look at, what am I talking about? What is my plan? What am I trying to accomplish? Building from who you want backwards, so that when I build out this content,
Mm.
like personal injury attorneys, I have a couple of clients who, and I brought on our first roughly 80, 90 clients, not quite 100, but pretty close. In that first bit, created the product, created the processes, revamped with some fixes 2.0. In the new year, we're getting ready to launch our next version of the product, almost treating it like a SaaS product, even though it's marketing, because we're always improving to get better and add things. So we're adding this in the new year. But as an attorney, they would say like, "Oh man, I shot a video like 3 years ago and put it on YouTube, and I still get a couple calls a month. I've got some really big cases off of it." So I imagine if I did something like that regularly, it would be a benefit to me. And it's like, yes, it would. So that's the type of thing I'm talking about. If that personal injury attorney would have only talked about a specific thing in the news and put that video out there, he wouldn't still be
Yeah.
yielding, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or maybe millions of dollars from that 20 minutes, 30 minutes of his time.
Yeah, it's beautiful too because as I'm posting short form on all the platforms, I'm seeing like certain clips that I would not expect to kind of do, 4 or 5 times better than the other ones are doing
Mhm.
that good. And I'm just like, it's really insightful. Like all these different social media platforms give you the answers, and it's not the short forms too specifically are not too hard to analyze. Why did that do good? And how can you hone in on that? Um,
But I want to take the flip
yeah,
side of that,
yeah.
because everyone talks about, and I live a lot in LinkedIn land. That tends to be
Mm.
my digital home right now, just because of working with attorneys and professionals. But I see this thing about like, don't post too much. If you post, it denigrates your brand, it waters
Mm.
things down, and you're not going to get as good of response. And yeah, if you have 4 posts a day, you'll get more overall reach, but you're really not getting quality. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. Do you fucking live in the algorithm? Because I don't. And yeah, I can see what the algorithm said yesterday, but here's the thing about the algorithm: it changes constantly. Now, I
Mm.
haven't been in SEO heavy for years, but I remember when I used to talk about SEO to people, I used to say, listen, there's 300 pieces. This is Google's algorithm. There's roughly 300 pieces to the algorithm. Everything from domain age to, citing, to meta tags, to coding, to load time, to security certificates, to the content itself. There's a bunch of stuff that has to do that the algorithms look at. And the thing is, all the pieces to the algorithm, they aren't constant. They are constantly, sometimes it matters what time of day you post, and the response to your core audience is not as important. And sometimes it's the opposite.
Mm.
So even going in and saying, oh, like, I'm going to just study my 5 top videos from the last month and only do one a day with
Mm.
that formula might not do it. But if you took the same time and just did 4 videos, you'd probably have double the reach, and one of your videos will do
Will go
infinitely
on.
better than you would have done if you would have just posted one video. So there's a lot to it. Like, I'm a volume shooter, shoot, right? I played basketball growing up. So it's like, give me the ball. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to make it in the bucket. I might miss 2 or 3 shots in a row, but I'm not going to miss more than that. They're going to put the ball in Steph Curry's hands at the end of the game, whether he's 0 for 7 in the last quarter or he's 6 for 9, right?
I love that. And this is a consistent battle on LinkedIn. I always see, and I'm trying to grow my LinkedIn brand, and I've been really honing in on LinkedIn specifically, just because it's a lot where my ideal clients are as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was hearing from other people was like, hey, yeah, only post 3 to 4 times a week max, because you are destroying your engagement. And initially, I was just blasting podcast episodes on on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't get a lot of engagement anyway, as well. I also heard Gary Vee talk about like, who cares? Just like blast it, and people are getting to know you almost. But I'm curious on what your perspective is on like, could you post every single day, multiple times a day, and focus specifically on one platform, and let's just say one content type,
I
podcast or
would
what?
I would not ever focus on one platform.
Okay.
I am very much outlet agnostic, and here's why. Although LinkedIn has your ideal client on it, it also has everybody else who's trying to sell your ideal client on it. So it is a competitive works or a competitive space. Now, we post on LinkedIn, we post on Blue Sky, we post on Threads, we post on TikTok, we post on Instagram, we post on Pinterest, we post on YouTube, we post on Twitter X, we post on like 10 outlets for all of our stuff and our client stuff. And on many of those, we have 4 brands on each of them. Now, why do we do that? Because, yes, my ideal client on LinkedIn, if I have 100 people, let's say 53 of them are going to be my ideal client. Whereas if I'm on on Facebook, if I have 100 of them, maybe only 5 of them are my ideal client. But those 5 people who are my client on Facebook, that's probably where they live. I like to use a concept I call digital languages, which is very simply this: we all have preferred forms of communication. I use the illustration of, we probably all have that one friend, right? Who we text them, nothing. Next day, hey, everything good? Nothing. Next day, hey, dude, we're going out tomorrow. I guess you're not responding back. Like, have a good weekend. And then the next day, you're like, hey, dude, we're getting ready to go out. And you post him on Facebook, right? And you just hit him on the inbox in Facebook. And he's like, oh, where are you going? Oh, I'll see you there. And you're like, I just text you 3 days in a row. And we
Right.
all have friends like that. And it's the same thing, like LinkedIn versus Twitter versus Instagram versus TikTok versus whatever. Yes, there might be more of your client archetype on one of them, so you should be there. But why not stack another 9 outlets with 5 each for 45, and now you've doubled your potential client base?
Right.
And half of your potential client base isn't being inundated from people like you for business purposes, because in the other outlets it's not nearly as much. We get clients out of Twitter or X. We get clients out of Pinterest. We get clients out of LinkedIn. We get clients out of cold email. We get clients out of ChatGPT or AI results. We get clients, I mean, multi-channel, multi-format, and like you talked about with AI, use AI as a tool to help you expand into those networks. It doesn't do the work for you, it does the work with you. So you feed in your stuff, let it give it back. It's probably 80% good, 90%. You get in, put humanity, layer it, put your personality in it a little more, get rid of the terms that are the AI terms that are out there. And now you can disseminate that information. It's basically from you, especially if you're using an AI tool that isn't like ChatGPT, like Pressmaster, or there's another one that I'm looking at right now. I can't remember it, but I just tried it today. I didn't post with it yet, but it's one that a lot of top LinkedIn influencers use. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But anyway, long story short, it's all there. As long as you put humanity into what you're producing, it is a genuine product. If you're just taking and doing an hour podcast, throwing it into Opus Clip, throwing it into ChatGPT, dividing it up, throwing it out there, and there's really no rhyme or reason or really anything of you behind it other than the core content, you're probably selling yourself pretty short. Where if you put that layer of humanity, it's kind of like, this is the way I look at it. I like mac and cheese. Now, it's really, I love when you go to like a thing and somebody brings like baked mac and cheese and it's got like 8 cheeses and a different kind of shell and, breadcrumbs on top. And it's like, that's the standard, right? But sometimes my wife, we're busy. She throws that Kraft mac and cheese in the pot, then she throws a couple of extra spices in it. She throws a little bit of, this on top and a little bit of that. And my wife uses the term, she zhuzhes it up. I don't even know how to spell it, so don't try to. But she zhuzhes up the food that we eat. And it's like, it's still pre-made, but it's not what everybody else is eating when they eat Kraft mac and cheese. And that's kind of the comparison I like to give in my mind. That's what I think about. How can I zhuzh up this content to make it appear custom? Even if people can see a little bit of like pre-made in there, once they taste it, they'll be happy.
You kind of glossed over one of the things I was going to ask you, which is when you are repurposing this content, is using these scheduling tools the most effective way to do it? Or is it better to just post organically, like individually, just take the time to post on each individual spot?
So
Does that make a difference?
No, I used to use those tools, Hootsuite, all that stuff back in the day. And as a matter of fact, when we went from static posting and we started posting for our clients, I was like, man, we got to scale because if we have 200 clients and if the average client is doing, 1.5, so let's say the average client is posting twice a day. That is, average client is posting twice a day. That's 400 a month. That's 8,000 posts, 80,000 posts. Yeah. It's 80,000 posts a month we're doing. Yeah. So it's just not realistic. So what I said to my team when we first started this process of being able to do more for our clients is I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. We're going to have to hire people and they're going to have to post it because you can't post you can't post through these tools because it'll kill your reach. And that's been gone for like 5 years. That's not a thing anymore. So I don't know if you read an old blog, if you're just curious, but that's just not a thing. Metricool, all of these other ones, we tend to see the same numbers as if we posted organically. Now, that being said, for my personal posting for my brand, what I do is I have a set amount of posts each day that go out that my team puts together. But then what I do is I come in with my own content and I'll be like, oh, take that one off, or let's do 4 posts today. So still having that real accessible desire for people who are engaging with your content, so it doesn't seem templated, so it doesn't seem automatic. You really want to try to jump in here and there to create that actual flavor of, oh, okay, this person actually mans this social media account. Something I do on LinkedIn, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but towards the end of my post that I write, which I usually just write, I'm sitting at coffee, I'm sitting at my desk, and a thought comes to me like, that's a great post. I think it's a great post, right? Time tells. But I'll post it and I put at the end, this post certified organic. I really wrote this. Oh yeah, I did use a little bit of Grammarly. And then this pick is for reach. It couldn't possibly be me putting up a picture of my wife and me to get brownie points so that I could have dessert tonight or whatever, just something a little more human and accessible, but that's me. I'm putting that. So when people read that, they're like, oh, these are his posts with his videos and his background. Oh, this is a post from him. And although they tend to do the same as far as engagement, the actual reach is a lot higher for those posts that I organically do because people can feel the humanity behind them and because they're more text. And LinkedIn says we want video, but then they give you 300 views for your video and 3,000 views for a static post. So don't tell me that that's what you want when you're not rewarding me for really giving it to you. I'd probably say 1 out of 5 of my videos does about 75% as good as all of my static posts. The rest of them significantly less.
That's you led me another question. I feel like we need a whole 3-hour podcast on just this. One thing you also mentioned, and I talk about everything to everybody about this. And maybe this could be one of our last questions here, because I appreciate all of your time, and I know you got a million podcasts you got to hop on. Where do you think AI is heading when it comes to the podcast space? This is a very curious one of mine. I talk about it in investing, when it comes to growing businesses, etc., all the time. But podcasts, I'm curious, in your mind, 1 year down the
So
road, 5 years down the road,
so one
where
year
do you?
down the road, I think we're going to see an accelerated level of production and creativity that's coming into podcasting. I'm trying to be a part of. I really think that that's kind of the next frontier, just like it was in radio, just like it was in television. They started off with very formulaic, kind of standard, like it used to be the Ed Sullivan Show, and those sort of like very formulaic in their shows, right? Well, look at podcasts; we're pretty damn formulaic. So there's got to be more coming into that. So I think that's 1 year. In 5 years, I think that we're going to finally start to see where AI is at a place where it is a little bit more challenging for us to see humanity. And I think subtleties among content that give the Morse code that this is humanity are going to be the things that people are going to be looking to edge themselves with, to just kind of get in their space, to be like, oh yeah, I know DM's content is all real. Why? Because he's a nut. Like AI wouldn't put anybody like that. I mean, he's laughing, he's emoting, he's screaming, he's shouting, he's telling silly stories, he dropping an F-bomb. Like, yeah, that's not AI. That's DM. He's crazy, but kind of knows what the fuck he's talking about. So I like him, right? So that's where we're going to have the opportunity in 5 years. Right now, we establish our brands, and we need to be true to our brands, because everyone's starting to hear that little whisper in the ear. You don't have to really do the content. Let the AI do it for you. Just come in and just download your face and download your voice and let somebody somewhere type in something for you to say. And you won't even have to do that. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure those podcasts will do extremely well in the long run, because eventually it's going to be like anything else. It's going to be like 10 years ago when a Photoshop photo came out and everyone was like, oh no, somebody has 3 heads that lives in Argentina. And then they're like, oh, that was just Photoshop. Oh no, this podcast is crazy. Oh, that's just AI. Right? So that's where I think we'll be in 5 years. And I also think there is a place, if I don't see it happen, maybe it'll be me that'll make it happen. I think eventually there needs to be an Etsy for content, where you can go to a human marketplace and buy non-generated content, whether it's graphics, whether it's writing, whether it's scripting, whatever it is, where these things are going to be certified human versus AI generated. And so I think if things keep going the way that they are, I think there will be a cool marketplace like Etsy, but purely for content and media.
What you just said, I also see as a huge opportunity, even for just like testimonials, because you could fake those as well with AI generated videos. A platform to showcase, like, this is a real testimonial, or this is a real podcast, this is a real video from this real person, and you're not allowed to upload AI videos. I hear that a lot kind of going around.
Well, supposedly LinkedIn is supposedly in their algorithm trying to read for that. Now, I don't know if that's just people saying it because they don't want AI there, but I see that, like, I've seen a couple of people say, hey, this algorithm, it's looking for that AI, what do they call it, slop or whatever. And so, I mean,
it's hard.
I don't know that the algorithm's there, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, DM, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. And I want to be able to send people your way, and for people to easily find your content. Where could they find you ultimately?
Easiest is going to be LinkedIn. That's kind of like I said earlier, it's kind of my playground now. Videos, me, putting stuff out, I'll probably like host virtual events. Matter of fact, we're getting ready to, if I could plug real quick, if you don't mind. In January, we're releasing our first in-house podcast. Now, what I mean by that is we do 200 podcasts, some once, some twice, some 4 times a month, but actually generated by me and my idea. We've been working on it for a while. We've got 4 episodes. We're getting ready to shoot 4 or 5 more next week. And it's called BAM, Building Authority Through Media. We're actually doing where I'm Bam Man. We're doing a 80s and 90s Saturday morning superhero cartoon style podcast where I'm coming in, I'm kind of telling a story, but then I have a guest who is with me as a dynamic duo. We make them into a superhero. And for example, the first one is Journey Through the Land of LinkedIn. There's 4 episodes. One episode we fight Content Cloud and the biohazardous bio. And we kind of come up to them and we talk about like things you should do, shouldn't do, how do you do that, all of that sort of stuff. We then take, and for YouTube purposes, and this is going to kind of seem to go against what I just said, but stay with me. We don't use this video. We actually create AI, superheroes talking, and then B-roll with like the scenes of the show where we're actually going in and, sharing like, it's actually almost like a cartoon you're watching. So it's funny, it's silly, but it's also like got great marketing lessons in it. And so I'm going to be doing a preview show. We have this like Rome, which I could do like a theater, like a virtual theater, and I'm on stage and it shows the show. And then I could do like a QA after, and everybody, it's kind of a cool thing. And so we're going to be like putting an event on there and all of that sort of fun stuff.
That's incredible. It's a lot of work too in my mind. So you're
the
professional here. So DM, thank you so much for hopping on. I'm going to put any type of links that you want me to add to the description. We'll have there in the video for everybody to kind of go follow you on LinkedIn and any other places that you want them to find you. So again, thanks so much for hopping on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Justice.